Hello and welcome to Ask George Test 2 Day 3 edition. Right, let's get straight into it with Lord and Zoni, who I think has asked questions on all 3 days. For all the talk yesterday of how ordinary this Pakistan team is, are they now favourites to win this match?
Well, they can be both things, can't they? They can be an ordinary Pakistan side, which I think they are by Pakistan standards, and favourites to win. I don't know whether they are favourites. No, I think it's pretty even. Anything could happen. Another interesting final day. Don't oversleep. Or fourth day, I should say. But yeah, I haven't changed my mind about them being a pretty ordinary Pakistan side. They clearly are.
Michael Pennell asks, do you see another collapse on the scale of Day 2?
It's definitely possible because there's a long tail. From 9 onwards, the Pakistan batting looks very fragile, but you've got to get there. And yeah, so it's definitely possible, but there isn't masses in the pitch, is there? It hasn't behaved as I thought it would, to be honest. Yeah.
No, so yeah, it's not deteriorated at all, is it? It felt like it spun more Day 1, early Day 2. Well, no, yeah, certainly Day 1.
Well, I guess that must have been residual dampness.
Yeah.
It's very hard to tell from a long way away, but it surprises me a bit, but it's dried out. But the interesting thing was that there are some cracks, and it is creating some sieve movement or seam. And obviously there were, the first 3 deliveries, first 3 wickets that England took in Pakistan's second innings were all magnificent. So that ball is in there. And, England have probably dismissed the cream of Pakistan batting. I think anything could happen. It's another really exciting Test match.
Robin Smith asked, in Rawalpindi, England maximise their winning chances, even if this increased possibility of losing, particularly given their batting today. Have they maximised their winning chances here, or have they just increased their chances of losing?
No, well, they haven't increased their chances of winning. No, I think they had an opportunity to bat Pakistan out of the game, and instead they let them back into the game. So every game is different. Every context of each innings is different, and in Pindi, the opportunity, the benefits of batting first were that they gave themselves more time to bowl Pakistan out. Well, here, remember, they started today, Day 3, with this huge advantage. They had the opportunity of, saying, batting till tea, maybe getting a lead of 450, 500 even. Now, if they had done that, if they batted all the way till tea, they still would have had more than 2 full days of the Test left to bowl Pakistan out one more time. I would have thought that was enough. I would have thought that accumulation was absolutely fine in such circumstances. I thought the way they batted, actually, in the first innings and the start of the second innings, particularly in the start of the second innings, they did that really well with Ben Duckett. I know people will say, well, this is the way we play, and, we play at our best like this, but there will always be a level of risk inherent in the way that you play. You can go through the gears. It wasn't like there was a wicket-taking ball around the corner. It wasn't like the bowlers need to be hit off their lengths. I think they could have just been milked a bit more. So yeah, I do think England let Pakistan back into the match today.
And on that note, King of Wessex asks, I'm a big fan of the theory that if England were to bat normally, in inverted commas, they would have collapsed anyway. Do you think that batting so positively will stop England's addiction to batting collapses?
I think that's really interesting. And I think, I did write a piece after the first day, which basically said that conditions were a bit different. As we were saying, the ball turned a little bit more. Now, in those conditions, I definitely feel the sweep and the reverse sweep is a good percentage shot against the sharply turning ball, at least if you're trusting the bounce. For the reasons that we talked about before, that if you prod forward with a defensive, old-fashioned forward defensive, the ball could take either edge. As long as you pick the length well with the sweep, you can smother that, and it almost doesn't matter which way it's turning. So there's a time and a place, but it wasn't like that today. It was a pretty flat wicket. It was a pretty slow wicket. Ben Stokes didn't need to hit that ball, and the same with Harry Brook. Who wants to criticise Harry Brook? He's obviously fantastic. He's got another 100. He's doing brilliantly. But those balls, they didn't need to be hit in the air to the boundary, did they, to score runs? I think that, England are still adapting, fine-tuning this technique, and it feels just sometimes a little bit simplistic, a little bit hubristic even.
Do you think they've also been, maybe duped is the wrong word, but there's a lot of talk after the first. I remember Ben Duckett speaking after the first day, and the question to him was, "Do you think it will deteriorate?" And the general opinion was that it would. I mean, yes, it would. Do you think? England almost sort of went into that phase today thinking, well, it's still the same pitch as day one, turning mystery spinner they're struggling against. Almost felt they had to get the runs before one got them. Whereas actually, what we've seen with Imam and especially Shaquille is that you can just occupy the crease and bat on a pretty sort of slow turning flat one.
I think that's a really, really good point. I think that probably is the case. I hadn't thought of that. And you can see why. They've got very little experience of playing there. Some of them played at the PSL. Obviously, James Anderson played there a long time ago. But there's very little experience of those conditions. And
you can fall into thinking that all I guess all subcontinental conditions are pretty similar as well, can't you? And actually, obviously England haven't been to Pakistan since 2005. Played Test cricket. I guess, as you said, there is no experience beyond Jimmy, and therefore, if you've played in Chennai and you've played in Gaul and you've
got the
big first innings, you think the third innings is to almost to get out of it as fast as you can. So you're not having to bat late on it. I guess there's that. It's that experience.
But they've been very good at adapting as they've gone on, and maybe they didn't do that brilliantly. So maybe they were just a bit impatient. Yeah. I mean, I get the impression that sometimes Stokes, and this is a wonderful quality, just thinks, it's all right, we'll win, we'll find a way. And you know what? He's probably going to be proved right. So there's that amazing confidence in them that they'll win come what may, really. But it did seem a little bit impatient. I'd have liked them to have been a bit harder. I do think that they probably batted in a way that encouraged Pakistan today.
Yeah, and very finally, Mark Gray asks, interesting one. This: have England made a mistake not bringing Ben Foakes back in and leaving Will Jacks out? Obviously, after the first test, it probably felt like it would have been a non-starter, losing Livingston and obviously Jacks taking 6-run debut. But if you were to, I guess if you look at the roles played in this game by everyone, Jacks hasn't bowled an awful lot.
It's weird how little he's bowled. There were two left-handers in today for a long time, and you would have thought that that he would bowl a fair bit. But it appears that Ben Stokes prefers Joe Root's bowling.
Well, it's interesting. Stokes hinted that'd be the case even when Livingston Livingston and Foakes were set to be fit for the first test. So when Jacks wasn't going to play, the suggestion was that he saw Joe Root as his second spinner.
Yeah, I think Jamie Overton might have played if he'd been fit, mightn't he? I don't know that the equation has to be Foakes or Jacks. I think
but it's perhaps an option they've got for third test that they didn't really have going to this test. Given Livingston's injury and his performance at Rawalpindi.
I mean, to answer the question, I would have played Foakes.
Would you play him before Jacks?
I probably would have done, yeah. I would have played Jacks, and I probably would have rested a seamer. To be fair, the seamers look fine. But I would have been tempted to rest Jimmy Anderson, actually, or Ollie Robinson, just on the basis that they could come back for the next game fit and fresh. Now, to be fair, they've done very well, and he's used them intelligently and sparingly, and they seem fine. But that's probably what I would have done if I've been honest. So it needn't just be Jacks v Foakes, but I definitely would have played Foakes. I know Pope is obviously a talented keeper, but he missed two proper chances in the first test. One, Imam early doors, he got 11, or he was 11, so only got another 100. And then he left one very late in the day, with 40 minutes to go or something, passed between him and Joe Root. And both of those could have decided the game. Now, they didn't, so he got away with it, and that hasn't had as much attention as it might have done. But I think Ben Foakes probably would have taken both those. I don't think that's an unreasonable assumption. I would play the best keeper on most occasions. So it didn't just have to be that equation, but it is interesting how little he has bowled Jacks, particularly the left-handers. Yeah. I like Jacks as a bowler. I think there's an awful lot to like and to work on there, and I can see him playing a role for a long time. He looked a bit dissatisfied with himself today, but maybe it was the lack of bowling. He obviously dropped a chance off his own bowling. And he didn't bat particularly well when promoted yesterday, did he, up the order? Didn't take that chance. But yeah, I would have picked Foakes, yeah.